Good morning, everyone. Um, I'm really tired. I'm gonna be honest, I'm very tired right now, and I'm a little sick. But today I will be giving today's Sunday sermon. So, how are you guys doing? Good? No one got sick yet? Some people got sick. I know I did. Um, so, today the title of my sermon will be not my timing, but God's timing. And I wanted to share this message, this topic, because I feel like this was something that I experienced this past semester, looking back and reflecting for the past year since it's our first Sunday service of the year. And usually around New Year's or Christmas time, you kind of look back and reflect about your experiences this past year and see how life was and see if your goals were completed and finished throughout this time. And so I think for myself, I've been kind of looking back and reflecting about my year and thinking the question of how God has guided my life this past year. And yeah, this was something I was reflecting about throughout the past month. Um, and yeah, they weren't like sit down and put it on a journal and write it down of like how my year was, but more of like thoughts here and there, like, oh, God provided me this, or oh, I did this past year, or oh, I got an internship this past year. And yeah, kind of accumulating all my thoughts and reflections. I think this year helped me understand what how how God guides me this year, guided me this year. And yeah, and this year I feel like I did a lot of different things. I went to starting off the year. What did I do? Um, I don't remember. I was in school. I went to a bunch of career fairs looking for internships, applying for internships, studying, going to Korea. I went to Korea in April and did the Blue Dragon tour. And then I came back home and I got accepted into an internship. And then I went to Seattle and I've been to Vancouver for a young adults retreat, and I came back, and then I went to Vancouver again for a night market, which was pretty fun. Internship, more internship. I went to Portland, Oregon for a business trip for my internship. I don't know if you know the Mwambas, but his son, one of the sons, he's my school friend in school, and we used to be childhood friends. And he actually worked in Portland, Oregon that time. So I texted him. I was like, "Hey, we should meet up," and we met up. His name is Augustin Mwamba, if you remember him. But yeah, and he actually came to watch the commitment ceremony yesterday, because I invited him. And yeah, anyways, I met up with him in Portland, Oregon, like middle of nowhere. Like it'd be a once in a lifetime like meeting. Um, and then yeah, and then in the summer, oh wait, that was the summer. And now in the fall, I went to Las Vegas like a lot of different times for many different reasons. And then yeah, and then I uh, I went to Indiana so many times. Oh my gosh, I traveled a lot this semester, and I look back to all those things. I was like, wow, there's so many things that I have accomplished this past year, and so yeah, and I think this is the reflection that I wanted to share. So I think this is a question to ponder about, but how do you know when it's the right timing to commit to something? Some people do it through like action or like emotions, like because you feel a certain way, you act because of it. Or sometimes it's like an intellectual reason, like, oh, because of according to this, I should do this. According to what I researched on online, um, I should take some medicine, or if you're sick or something. Um, but how do you know when it's the right timing to commit to something that you decide to do, whether it's something like a big decision of, what schools you're going to apply to, or what kind of jobs you're going to go to, or where you're going to move, when are you going to have kids, like these big decisions. How do you know when it's the right timing? How can you tell if God is giving you the right time to do something? And this was a question that I always thought about, especially in like the matching and blessing journey. Like sometimes it's kind of like, is this person the right person, or is this other person the right person? Like, how can you really, really tell? Um, and so, yeah. Um, but I think this year, actually, in reality, like you can actually feel the difference between when you feel like you're making a decision with God, but in comparison to making a decision based on yourself. And I feel like that's how I felt during this year. And I think even explaining in words, it might not be understandable at the moment. But I think when you actually feel it, that's when you will actually experience what it means to decide with God. Maybe you already experienced it, because I know some of you guys are older than me, so I'm sure you guys went through more life experiences than I have. So yeah, and I think for me, how I felt like, especially more specifically in terms of the matching and blessing journey, the feeling the to decide with God is different because I felt like it was if everything fit, like the feeling of like I felt 100% confident that this was a choice that doesn't just come from me, but also comes from God. And I felt like that was like all the decisions that I made throughout my life, whether it's internships or all that stuff, um, was was tools to help me to understand how that how I decided to go with God in a sense. Um, and I guess this feeling doesn't just come out of nowhere, but it takes a lot of responsibility to always connect with God. Um, and so some weeks like I felt like I felt pretty distant from God, um, but there would be other weeks where I would feel very connected with God. But all in all, it's like always putting effort to reconnect with God helps you to really determine how you go with your life with God. And so, yeah, and that's the main point that I wanted to share. And I think I wanted to really share this through the experience that I had with my matching and blessing journey. So I think throughout this process that I had in my if you don't know yet, you see a bunch of decoration and stuff. I got matched, so just wanna just wanna put it out there, just in case if you didn't know. But yes, um, and so yeah. Anyways, I think a little bit of background of like how I started throughout my journey. I think one thing that I would like to express my deep gratitude to is actually also my parents, but also like High Noon and also the programs that it provided, because I think those two programs really helped me understand emotion and how emotions work in my life, and also like digging through like past trauma and also past challenges and conflicts that I faced throughout my life. Um, Usually I would just put them away or like keep them aside, but I never really reflect on how I felt during those moments. And I felt like slowly digging up like these things that happened throughout my past helped me also understand what emotions that I went through throughout my time, and also like how God works through emotions as well. And so, yeah, I guess going throughout this matching and blessing journey, um, I thought 3 years ago, I thought I was ready to find somebody. I thought I was like, okay, I did all the preparations, I did all this level two workshop thing or whatever this thing that I had to do to prepare for the blessing, go to the do a health examination. What else do you have to do? Find somebody, like all these things that I had to do to prepare for this matching blessing journey. Um, So I thought I was ready. I'm a pretty confident guy, pretty good looking. Like, I don't know. I thought I was ready. But I think as time went on, I think as I went through a couple processes beforehand, and and it didn't go well, or it was enjoyable, but it didn't go through. And I feel like this kind of made me realize. I mean, throughout those past 3 years, I always thought I was ready, so I was always looking for somebody, but also like kind of preparing myself as I go on through life. And so, yeah, I think I went through a couple processes and tried to understand like who I am as a person and stuff like that. I thought I was pretty confident that I knew who I was in terms of character and who how I react to certain things, like when do I get mad, when do I get happy, sad, whatever, all those things. I thought I was pretty confident that I knew who I was going into this matching and blessing process. Um, yeah, but I think the every time I went through those processes, like the people that I met were really nice people, really good people that I felt like I could continue the process with. And they're really nice people. And but I think one thing was that, even though these were good people, like it was intellectually, I think conceptually, like everything like check marked. Most things check marked in terms of like what I was looking for. But I think the feeling inside me was, um, it was, it felt different. It was like, everything works out, but something's different. Like my heart doesn't feel like it's this person in a sense. Like, I, I think, like this, yeah. Anyways, it was like a weird feeling, but I think like looking back, it was like a mutual agreement for these processes. Like, oh, it's not gonna work out and stuff like that. But I think like it felt like for me, like it felt like something's gonna come later in a sense. So I was like, okay, maybe. But yeah, I think maybe it was like, oh, maybe I wasn't ready yet, or something else was coming later. But anyways, we had to end the process and continue from there. Um, and so yeah, but these experiences that I had throughout the process weren't like just an experience that like came out. But I feel like all these things that I experienced throughout the past 3 years were tools and opportunities to help me grow in who I was as a person, and what else I needed to grow as well. Um, and so yeah, but I think in the last process where I accepted, or I guess I decided to say that this was the right choice. It was a different feeling for myself when I was going through this matching and blessing process. It was like a feeling of like, you know, everything was aligning, and like I guess this person is here today. Her name's Lisa. Um, you don't have to stand. Um, uh, is this water? Can I drink this? There's a lot of mucus in my throat. I guess you didn't have to know that, but so, anyways, when I met this person, um, I felt like everything was aligning. Cause a couple months ago, before I we had met in the Las Vegas 20 plus retreat, there's this person named Chungbom and Yoshika. Oh, those are two people, and they. I was talking about the matching and blessing journey, and then they were like, "Oh, why don't you approach this person?" And the person was Lisa, and I was like, "Oh, okay. I'll just put it in the back of my mind and think about it later." And then I went to my internship. um, so, and then before that, or after that, I was like, "Okay, cool. Like, life is great. I'm in an internship." Sorry, my actually, I won't explain what's happening. Okay, my throat is clear. So, during my internship, and then after the internship, I was like, oh, okay. But before the Las Vegas retreat, before I met this person, my parents met their parents beforehand, and they're like, oh, there's this half Japanese, half Filipino person that is a candidate. It's like, okay, cool. And then I kept it in the back of my mind, but I knew it was Lisa in the first place because I don't know who else is half Japanese, half Filipino in my head. So that's what I thought. And then I went to the Las Vegas retreat and I met this person, but actually I did not talk to her that much. We only had one-on-one conversation, and that's it. Oh, we had a couple other conversations, but I don't remember too well. But anyways, so it until after the retreat, we decided to have an extended conversation, and that's when I had a real, I guess, conversation with Lisa. And I think during that time, um, I think I decided to continue this process because, intellectually, it was like, everything's aligning. Someone suggesting her. Um, I don't know, like my parents met her parents beforehand. Um, she's cool. Um, and yeah, so I was like, okay, well, if everything's aligning, I should just choose her to continue the process. And yeah, I just thought of it as another process, but for her, it was different, I guess. But for me, I think when I was going into this process, I think this was a moment, or like throughout the process afterwards, it was the moment where I was like, I felt very comfortable being around this person, and like I don't know, nothing is holding me back. Everyone's like suggesting this person to me, even though I didn't say anything. Um, like there's a roommate of mine. Like during the process, he was like, "Oh, someone parks really. There's this person named Lisa, and she parks really bad." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. Why did you mention her name? Like it's so random?" And I was like, "Oh," and then he was like, "Oh, you know who would be a good match for you?" I didn't. He didn't even know I was in the process during that time. He was like, "Oh, Lisa would be a good person for you." I was like, "Oh, okay, great. Well, if he accepts it, then I think the world accepts it for me. So, I think it's gonna work out well." But anyways, his name's Hiro. It's a roommate, my roommate. If you're curious. And so yeah. Anyways, all these things were aligning, so I was like, okay, well maybe this is the person. And yeah, and I feel like when it going through this process and overall, eventually it came to the point where we decided to continue and have the matching ceremony yesterday. And I think throughout this process, something I realized was that like throughout this time I was talking to Lisa, like I felt like very very confident that this was the person, but it wasn't because it, maybe this is a bad way to say it, but she's very pretty. But I didn't see it. I didn't accept it because of the looks. I was accepting it because like, everything felt right to me. Like nothing like I felt a lot of peace in my heart. And that feeling never came to me. What I guess that feeling didn't come like these two previous processes that I had. It didn't come to me like that feeling. But I felt like this feeling was so different. Like, I felt like a message of God telling me like, "Oh, I think this is the right person for you." And I felt a lot of peace in my heart throughout that time I was talking to Lisa. And so, yeah, there was like nothing holding me back, and I feel like the whole world is supporting me with this. Um, and like I feel like nothing was really stopping me from going through this process. Um, but it's a feeling that I never felt in my life. I always felt like I thought I was making my own decisions in my life, throughout my life. And I thought it was just based on my decisions. I never felt like God was pushing me to decide, in a sense. I felt like I had a lot of free will, freedom. But I think this time around, it was a mix of both. Like, this was also my decision, but it was also God's decision. Like, I felt like He was pushing it a little bit more. And this feeling that I felt was like never came to me until this moment. And so I think looking back through this time, I realized that um, God is always knowing when it's right, I guess. And I feel like even though I thought I knew I was ready like 3 years ago, um, God pretty much said I wasn't ready. It's time for you to prepare, kind of thing. And I felt like throughout those experiences, I was actually preparing to meet Lisa rather than, I guess, like going through these opportunities. Also, my internship and all those experiences, I felt like this was preparation for me to meet this person. And, um, and I think God kind of planned out everything for me in a sense level based on the decisions that I made. Like, oh, he's doing this, okay, I'll guide him to this. Oh, he's doing this, oh, he made a wrong turn, okay, well, that's okay, you can always go back. And he always makes, I feel like he always gives me to the direction where it feels right and peaceful for me, in my own heart. And so yeah, this is something I was kind of thinking about throughout this time and this process. And I think that's one thing I kind of came to a conclusion that God is always, well, obviously, He's always right. Um, and but I think God always knows the timing of when I feel ready. And so, yeah. Anyways, I think this is what I felt. And I feel like this feeling will only come if it's hard to explain in words, and obviously conceptually it doesn't make any sense. But I think when you actually feel it and experience it, you'll I think you will know when God is pushing you to make the right choice. And so yeah, and it's interesting because even in Jesus's time, like the words that he was saying was pretty much heretical during his time, but still he was sharing it because he felt like this gave peace to his heart, and this was something that he wanted to share to the people to help them come closer to God. And I feel like even during True Parents' time too, like these there were some things that was shared, and some people did not agree, and like this was very challenging for some people to agree. But True Parents thought it felt right to share this at this time. And so I feel like God, I think in conclusion, overall, I think God is working throughout all of our lives, and that um, I think in order to kind of have this feeling, the feelings that I felt like I had to put a lot of effort to invite God into my life and like see how God was guiding me and through deep reflection, or sometimes a thought that comes in my head as I'm driving or something. Like always being able to find some time to include God in your life. It doesn't have to be like a sit down, pray 7 minutes kind of thing, or I mean, Chonshimon is great. Um, but you can also experience God outside the Chonshimon too, um, and throughout your life. I think it's God has 95% responsibility, created this world, provided us with everything, but we also have a responsibility to always reconnect with God, and always put effort to include Him in our life. Um, and so I think this year, because of the reflection that I had this past year, that's something I would like to do more often, um, to include God into my life wherever, uh, whatever happens, even the challenging times, even the mistakes that I make, to include God into my life. Um, and it can be a thought like, "Oh God, look at this tree that I'm looking at. Pretty cool, huh?" Or like, "Oh shoot, this is so good," and you just be happy. And that's how maybe the smallest things can help you experience God. But it takes your responsibility, to really always reconnect with God. And I feel like with that, you will slowly understand what decisions you're making is based on with the decisions that you're making is with God or not. So yeah, but that was pretty much my sermon for today. Thank you for listening.